Right away, here's the first thing. God will do what He can do when you realize your dream is not about you. And with this whole concept of never alone, we become vastly better communicators when we realize that we're not communicating so people would applaud us. We're not communicating just so that people be impressed by us, but we are communicating because we believe the visions God has given us. There's no way to complete those visions, those dreams, if we think it's about us. Some of the best communicators out there who are just talented at word crafting and really engaging, they aren't as successful because they think it's all about them. And so honestly, God even uses mediocre communicators, but the reason He uses them is because they realize it's not about them. He must increase, I must decrease, and it's about the community. So what I want us to look at for our time here is really, how do you get as many people involved as possible? How do you grow your community, your tribe? What are the tactics? Because I believe we're going to see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups of people. And the reality is each group, there's something different that you have to do to reach them. And so I just want to walk through that. So have you guys ever heard of the law of diffusion of innovation? I feel like one might and be Casey. So no, winning. Okay, so law of diffusion of innovation is this. We have this graph right here, and there are 5 different groups. So this is talking about, this was especially used, a lot of people use it when it talks about technology, like apps or iPhones or whatever. A lot of tech companies reference this. If they're going to make it big, they need to understand how to reach each group. So reality, the innovators are those who probably created the product. They're the people who have this brilliant idea. This is Steve Jobs. This is everyone's like, hey, this is what we want to do. And there's a group of people with you that help develop that product. Great communicators are innovators. Great communicators are always looking to the future, seeing something that other people don't see, and then casting vision for that to become a reality. The innovators, Simon Sinek has a talk kind of about this. Innovators are the people, and really kind of early adopters, but the innovators are crazy. They're the ones who wait like 12 hours at the Apple store, you know, on the first launch day. It's like me, it's like I'll wait a week because then it dies down or whatever. I'll pre-order. But the innovators, they just love that they're always on the cutting edge and it's something new. So church plants attract a lot of innovators because it's something different. You're not fighting against tradition. You can make new traditions. Innovators is really attractive for some people because you are innovators. Now, early adopters are incredible. Early adopters are when you come from your idea now becomes a reality. Because 2.5% of your people, that's not a lot of people. Sometimes it's literally just one of you, and you're trying to figure out, how do I make my idea take off? How do I get people to adopt it? The early adopters are who you have to target right away. Now, the early adopters, some things about them is they don't need social proof. They don't need their friends to check it out first. They're willing to check it out first. The only thing early adopters need is they need to trust you, but they give trust quickly, and they need to see that you bring them value. So early adopters are very intent on making a difference in this world. They want to be a part of the change. They don't want to just complain about it. They want to jump on ideas and go with it. And so they take pride. A lot of like big churches, the early adopters, they always say, well, we were here before it got big, right? We were here when we met in a garage. We were here when there's only about 100 people here. Those are the early adopters. Well, what's really neat is a lot of times early adopters, they stick around if you as a communicator are constantly reinventing yourself, constantly casting vision for the future. But when you become content, because when you start to get to these numbers, a lot of the early adopters leave because the reason they came to you in the first place was that you were different and you were trying to reach the culture. Once you become lazy, they're out and they're now going to jump on the next product, the next thing. I don't know if you guys relate. Mostly, a lot of church plants stay with innovators and early adopters. Honestly, until they get a building, until they get some sort of established vibe, they just have these 2 groups of people. So if you look at it, that's dramatically, I don't want to do math, but that is a lot of the people you're missing out on if you just stick with innovators and early adopters, which means you have to really invest in your early adopters, really build the foundation of them as leaders so that early majority can start coming. We're going to talk about how do you reach them. What's the early majority? Early majority is they're the tipping point for radical change. So a lot of innovators, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of communicators, they have some encouragement if they're reaching innovators and early adopters, but there's many days where they wonder, is this the right thing to do? There are many days when they think, I don't think this will work out. A lot of doubt. But when the early majority starts coming, you realize, wow, I now have a budget. Wow, I can now maybe even make 2 stores. Wow, people are listening to my message. Great, I can now sponsor something. I can spend money towards ads because we have enough money to do that. Early majority is really big. And honestly, that's when you reach critical mass, when people feel like this is a thing. If you're just in the early adopters are content, at least for a season, that it's just them because they're kind of taking pride that they're making something. But early majority wants to feel like, hey, a lot of people like this, not just a few of us. So it's really hard to reach them. How do you get them? Well, they want to feel like they're on a winning team. They want to see a majority of people there. They want to feel like they're not alone. They need social proof from those they trust. They won't just trust you right away. They have to trust other people who they already trust, who trust in you. And then they also love to be cutting edge, though. They love to say, hey, I want to be different. I want to reach people. So these are great people still. Now, the late majority, 34%. So we have innovators 2.5%, early adopters 13.5%. Early majority is 34%, and then the late majority is 34%. Now, here's to describe the late majority. Late majority is pretty content with their life, and they really have to feel like they have to change before they actually change. Late majority is like the people who still have an iPhone 5, right? Caleb has an iPhone 6, so late majority is they will go there eventually, but there has to be enough pain to make them change. There has to be enough going on in their life to finally switch over to your idea. They need social proof, and not only that, they need convincing of why they need to join this community, join this idea that you have. They're really hard to get. Now, you can never reach the late majority if you do not first reach the early majority. So these always stack. There's no skipping, obviously. Now, here's the problem. Notice the graph goes up and then goes back down. Your sweet spot is really attracting the early majority and before that. When you start making your whole communication, everything you do about the late majority, these are people who are traditional, they don't want to change. And when you start catering to the late majority, you start to decrease as a company, decrease as an organization, decrease as a community because they're slow to move. They don't want challenges, and then you wind up having a bunch of laggards. Laggards are literally, they probably don't want to be there, but they were forced to because the iPhone 4 now no longer works, right? So they had to get the new one. Does that make sense? So this is the law of diffusion of innovation. This is not a Christian statistic. A lot of businesses use this. And so in reality, at our church, we are in the early adopter stage. We're trying to build up, unify our early adopters, have this culture, which is a great opportunity. You cannot have a culture, you cannot wait to create a culture, I think, by the early majority. You need to create it in the innovators and the early adopter stage. And then when the early majority comes on, they see your culture and just duplicate it. And it just becomes a lot easier. That's the tipping point. I think the hardest work is the first 17%. You got to work really, I did the math wrong. First 16%. You got to work really hard to get them. But then a lot of churches, a lot of organizations, out of nowhere, now everything starts working. Now people are coming. Why? It's because you're getting the early majority. So the question we have to ask ourselves, how do we communicate to each group? How do we reach them? How do we in our organizations? How do we do that? How do we build our team? And that's what I want to spend the rest of our time. So first thing, great communicators convince early adopters by painting a future worth sacrificing for. Early adopters, I'm assuming innovators, you just have to kind of like say an idea, they're in, right? Like they don't need much convincing at all. So we're just going to assume you know how to reach an innovator because you probably are the one who innovates and your family is the rest of those who want to innovate with you. But how do you get the early adopters? You have to paint a picture. Early adopters are obsessed with vision. You cannot have vision without communication. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, how brilliant you are, if you're not communicating it effectively, painting the picture of what you truly want, you're not going to even be able to get that. I'm in the church planning world. I know a lot of I don't want to say I know a lot. I know some church planners where they even struggle with this, and it's so hard because they're great people. But if they can't even paint a picture worth sacrificing for the early adopters, there's no way they're going to get any more people. So communicators, leaders, they have to be visionaries. And with that, what's really important is you need to paint the picture that connects to their culture. In other words, you need to use language that the people understand. So just because using certain language worked in North Carolina and it worked for them doesn't mean as a communicator I'm going to say I'm just going to steal everything they said and say out here in Arizona and now my community is going to grow. Not going to work. Why? Because there's a different culture. Way different culture. The things we value are different than the things that North Carolina values because we're better. No, but here's what a lot of people say when you cast vision. They use these three words. Your vision, right? What else? Your mission. And what else? And core values is usually like the three phrases, all like, that's just very popular. I think those phrases worked like 10 years ago. But honestly, what I realized when I was in school getting ready to plant this church, I thought, I don't get the difference between vision and mission. So why would a non-believer understand it? Right? Like how? Like, okay, I guess maybe I get it. I'm not sure. So what I decided to do was to change it because just because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it works for you, especially when we're in different contexts. So instead of saying vision, we start using the word heartbeat. This is our heartbeat. This shows more, I feel like this is more human. It's more like we care about you. We're instilling, this is just who we are. And you have to answer the question. Usually when people say this is our vision, this is why we are here. This is why we exist. So our church, our heartbeat is we exist to reach and teach everyone for Christ. That's our heartbeat. Everything we do, that's why we're here. If we stop doing that, the number one thing, if we stop reaching and teaching, we're done. So in your communication, you need to figure out what is your phrase. For us, I think in our culture, heartbeat makes sense to people. But maybe it won't in 2 years, so guess what? We'll change it, right? But the heart of it will always stay the same, reaching and teaching everyone for Christ. So whatever organization, community, tribe you're trying to create, you have to answer the question, why are we here? And make it where it's memorable and people are like, oh yeah, reach, teach everyone for Christ. That's easy to remember. If you don't do that, you won't get donors, you won't get people to join on board, you won't get the innovators or the early adopters. Next thing, our goals. So this is in place. To me, this is the mission. A lot of people say, here's the mission, and they mention objectives of what they want to get done. To me, what makes more sense in my mind is, oh, goals, I get it. Here's some markers of success. So to me, your goals are how we define success. Our mission, here's what happens if we do these things, then we're doing well, right? So for us, one of our goals is to create a safe and loving environment for LDS and atheists. That's a goal of ours. That also means we're not there, but we're shooting to be there, right? It has to be just within reach, but also has to be, hey, right now people aren't doing it. That's why that's a goal of ours. So how you define success, again, you have to figure out what that looks like in your life and your leadership. Another thing is our culture. So a lot of people say our core values. I have no problem with that. But for me, what makes more sense is, hey, this is our culture. When you come to our church, this is the vibe you feel. This is the vibe of our tribe, okay? You have to address what is the attitude of your community. Just the general attitude. It's not saying everything we do, but for us, no matter what happens, we're going to have a disposition of never holding back. So we're going to do excellence in all things. No matter what happens, we have a disposition of never being alone. So we're going to try to bring in as many people as possible on everything we do. Got that? That's just our culture. Not everybody does that. That's what we do, and we're proud of it, and that's kind of what defines us. Last one I think is important that people don't mention. We mention patterns. The reason I say patterns is something that repeats itself. So we always say our patterns have the power to forecast our future. This is all intentional. You have to address when you're communicating to somebody, here's how we practically get involved. Because people see a vision, they're pumped, but now they're thinking, what do I do? What's my job? So for our patterns, it's God time, gather time, group time, go time. Done. So it's communicating, hey, I know it seems like what we want to do, there's a million things. Let's make it simple for you. We care about you first and foremost, so you need God time. We think what's great is when we gather together. And we love it because we really go through life when you go through groups. And we have to reach other people. If you have the discipline of your Christian life doing those things, it'll affect absolutely everything else in your life. So that is communication. That is like how you get early adopters. Even with early adopters, it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing all of these things yet, but you're saying this is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. Every church plant, they say all these things and they're really full of trash because it's not actually happening. Every organization, this is what we do. Well, okay, hopefully, but you need to shoot for it. And then eventually one day you realize, oh wait, that is what we do. We are doing incredible, but it's never that way in the beginning. The early majority wants to see it actually happen. Early adopters are like, we want to make it happen. And that's what's really important. In order to steer, you have to be clear. You have to show them. You have to direct people. And so you can't just say, we just want to love people. Okay, how are you going to love people? We just want to be a community that just gets together. Okay, every community gets together. So what makes yours unique? What makes your tribe, your community you're creating online, your friends, how is that different? What I love about early adopters too is they don't worry about the fact that not a lot of people are there. You know, like they almost take pride in the fact that like, yeah, but this is a great thing going. One day a lot of people will be there. I think the thing that early adopters fear is not being involved. If they feel like they don't have skin in the game, if they feel like they're not actually kind of feel like it's their tribe, they'll eventually leave. So in our organization, we're constantly thinking, how do we make people feel like family? How do we show them, hey, here's the way you can serve? Like, so one way for us, we're trying to communicate is our Dream Team rallies. Like, let's just enjoy each other's company, have games, have food. Our Viking feast we're doing in a couple weeks. It's, hey, this is a family. Like, we care about each other. We do fun things together that a lot of, like, who else just randomly gets together at a house with a bunch of random people and eat without silverware, even though you guys actually never do that and you always bring silverware. But, you know, like stuff like that is like what makes your community unique. And people take pride in that. And one last thing before jumping to the next, there's a reason a lot of people never get past the early adopters is because, again, your tipping point of success isn't until you reach the early majority. And a lot of people, they can't put up with a heartache. They can't put up with just the tough grit to finally get to that tipping point. Like my dad, I remember 7 years ago, he told me, we're done, we're no more. And he was stubborn enough to keep going. And now we're sitting in his building and they're doing really well. It's just funny to think so many church planners would have quit. They did. A lot of them have quit. Again, I'm speaking church planting world because that's the world I come from. But so realizing that with early adopters, you never know when the early majority might start showing up. You know, like for us, our church, it could be next month. All of a sudden, boom, boom, family, family, family. You don't know. So it's like faithfully, I love a quote I heard from a pastor, our job is to take care of the people and God will take care of the church, right? Like God, if you just take care of your community, God will multiply your community. Even like online for YouTube, I heard Gary Vee, he was talking to some guy and he's a YouTuber. He's complaining that he doesn't have a lot of subscribers, nobody's interacting. So he went on one of his videos and he's like, dude, you have 10 comments here. You haven't replied to any of them. Why would 10 more people come if you won't even reply to the 10 people who spent time to talk to you? And that's a lot of us. We're like, oh, we just need more people. You're not caring for those you already have. Early adopters want to feel cared for and communicated with and loved because you can't go anywhere without your early adopters. You can't. You can't reach the early majority without the early adopters. And we cannot see early adopters as stepping stones. They are the foundation, the ground level, ground zero to whatever you build in the future. Does that make sense? Great communicators convince the early majority by celebrating the early adopter. I think our era, we have the greatest opportunity to celebrate our early adopters because we have social media. So before, you'd have to talk to people and say, hey, our community is so great. Like you'd have to literally show them. Now we can just do a Facebook ad as stories of our people and show the world, hey, look how incredible our people are. So that's really important. The early majority needs to see some of our people and your organization in the very beginning, they need to see success in their life. They need to see, oh, if I show up, there's some people like killing it. You know, they're not impressed just by a speaker. They need to see that other people have rallied around that speaker and that there's something to that tribe. Okay, so that's really important. What does that mean practically? I think that means whatever is celebrated is replicated. I don't know who originally coined that phrase, not me. But in other words, you have to figure out, and again, this is communication for an organization, whatever community you want to build. What are the things you want to see often? Make a big deal when those things happen. So that's why we put in one of our goals is baptisms. I want to celebrate baptisms, talk a big deal out of it, because I want to see a lot of baptisms. Now, if you celebrate everything, you kind of just, like when people say, now this is the best video ever, it's like, dude, you said that the last 100 videos. I don't believe you anymore. I'm done. So you have to pick. So for us, it's like, okay, what are the few things we have that, like, yes, there's other great stuff going on, but we need to really make a big deal when someone shares their faith to their friend. That's huge. We're going to talk about it all the time because people think, oh, that's good. This place, I want to be a part of this tribe, and that's one of the things they love the most, so I'm going to start doing that. It's really that simple, but we kind of make it a little bit more confusing. Another principle with that I've noticed with communication, when you feel like you've communicated it the 1,000th time and you feel like you're annoying people because you're saying the same thing over and over, usually that means your people heard it for the first time. So many times communicators think, I told you once. It's like they weren't listening. What is it? Like the retention rate's like 7%. They forget everything else. And so as communicators, I feel like a lot of times I fear like, oh, I'm going to say the same thing over and over, but it shows them this is who I really am. I think when we only communicate something once, we're saying we don't really care about this, but we're just saying this to be nice. But you say over and over. We constantly say, hey, we never want to be alone. We love community. We say it over and over. Now they're thinking, oh, if I come there, they're going to welcome me in because that's all they talk about. So that's really important. Also, with this group of the early majority, social proof is absolutely necessary. They're skepticals of innovators. They're very skeptical, and they tend to trust early adopters a little bit more, but they need to hear out their options, and they need to hear that this place really is better. So social proof is necessary. That's why for us, I think the ad will come out this next week. For now, we have 3 of our people. I want to do a bunch of them, but of just talking about how God is working in their life. That's social proof. So the early majority goes, oh, okay, and then joins in. Now remember, early majority is the tipping point. So you need to faithfully take care of those first 2 groups, because when you get to that early majority, you now get to do the things that you told the early adopters you're really going to do. Okay, now here's what's so necessary, I think, for all of them. But I think you can get away, this next element, you can get away not using this in the first 2 groups, but you will never reach the early majority if you don't have this principle in your communication. This is so necessary. Ready? You are not the hero, meaning the communicator. If you think everyone's coming because I'm awesome, you're never going to reach the early majority. Your communication has to be, you're the hero. I want to help you in your life. I want you to reach the kingdom of God. I don't want you to watch me. I don't, like, you know, it's really tempting as pastors to say, hey, just invite them to church and we'll take care of it. That's not super motivating. Oh, okay, so I don't really have a part to play. But if it's saying, bro, look at all the stuff you have. You're so skilled. You need to share, man. You need to open up your life to people. That's when they actually start going in. It cannot be about you anymore. You'll never get past early adopters. You guys ever heard of Donald Miller? He's a great communicator. He did a research on stories, which is communication, and he realized every great story. Remember on the first week I talked about the different arcs of story? Here's another one by Donald Miller. It's called the Story Brand Formula. Number 1, every great movie first introduces the character. What we have to realize for us, in our story, our audience is the character, not us. A lot of people in how we talk, we think we're Luke Skywalker. How does that motivate anybody? Oh, so you're the hero. Okay. This is entertaining for a while, but I'm not coming back. Ken Hamer, he's AT&T Presentation Research Manager, said, designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. So when you communicating, they are the hero. You are the one, they're the ones that you're obsessed with. But every single character has a problem. In every story, there's a character with a problem. So when you communicate, you talk about, you're trying to reach their level and talk about the problems that they have. And in every single movie, that character meets a guide. So for Frodo, who does he meet? Gandalf, right? For Luke Skywalker, who does he meet? Yoda. All these people, they meet this father figure, this guide that helps them. They have obstacles and they cannot get past those obstacles without their guide. Guess what? You are the guide. As a communicator, you're not the hero, but what's even better, you get to be the guide. So in theory, you can spend your whole life trying to be the hero, or you can spend your whole life making hero after hero after hero, which is way more encouraging and way more life-giving to see a bunch of people realize their potential. So with that, we have to realize, as communicators, we can impress or empower, but only one will go sour. If we try to impress, I think people are motivated by it for a while, but eventually they get over it. So when I try to tell stories, I don't want to look impressive because that's always less effective. What's really funny is when your stories kind of are like humiliating because it's relating. Bad communicators always see the platform as a pedestal, but great communicators see the platform as a way to put other people on pedestals. So that's really important. If you actually study Ephesians 4, it says that the work of the ministry is actually mobilizing the saints to do the ministry. So especially as pastors, my chief job isn't necessarily to be the one doing it all. My chief job is to equip everybody to do it all. And with that, if you appear unreachable, you'll be unable to reach. If you seem like you're so great and so impressive and just incredible, people will say, oh, that's really neat, but they're not going to join your community because that doesn't really help them at all, especially with non-believers. So that's how you reach. We have the innovators, early adopters, early majority, but now how do you reach the late majority? Great communities, because we need to make that shift. It's not just the communicator, but the whole community. Reach the late majority by guiding them through the obstacles of life. Late majority comes when they finally realize, I have a pain and there's no way I can get rid of this pain. Thank you, darling. No way to get rid of this pain unless I find something else to solve it, because what I'm doing currently cannot solve my issue. I think that's why you have a lot of big, let's just say mega churches. They've really understood because they already have the early majority, have all this stuff. Every series is just about different pains people go through because they've already reached all of the other people. They're trying to reach those late majority, and they know the only way to get them into church is to make them realize they cannot do this life alone. And so you reach them through their pain. So to help people through their pain, to help them through the obstacles of life, there's three things everyone needs. They need guidance, confidence, and they need tools. So great communicators know their job is to give guidance. So to give guidance, you must speak in authority. The reality is you don't know everything, but you do know some things, and you have wisdom and knowledge, and you help people realize, oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't research that. The disposition needs to be, hey, you're incredible. God is going to do a lot of great things, but I have more time to study and help you just to get further and faster in your life. Like, hey, you're doing all these other things. Let me help you by doing some research you don't have time to do. That's kind of the position you have to take as a communicator. Because if your community is great, they're busy. They're doing all sorts of things. They're being incredible mom and dads. They're doing great in the business world. And so you're just saying, hey, keep doing these great things, but let me help you along the way. I think I can't do what you do, but I want to help you some way. So you guide them through it. Another thing, great communicators know their job is to bolster confidence. Most people, they just need somebody to give them the permission and the confidence to do it. That one's really, really big. One way to give confidence is you're empathetic. You understand what they're going through. You show them how you've gone through it as well, but then you show, hey, but I've resolved, I'm doing it anyways. That's why I think vlogging is super helpful, kind of showing your life and showing the struggle, but still showing people, hey, I'm not giving up. Gives so many people the confidence that they need. A lot of people in this world don't have mentors. A lot of people don't have encouragement. And so as communicators, we can be the one that says, you really can do it. Keep pressing forward. Because every single hero has a problem. And usually the problem they have in the movies, the problem we have in real life is doubt, it's fear, it's skepticism, and it's our job to remove the doubt, our job to remove the fear, our job to remove the skepticism by just literally helping them. By the way, I think this is really important. I think fake nothingness only works on the laggards, meaning you can't just say, you can do it. And then they're like, oh, thank you. I thought I couldn't. Yes. You know, laggards, they want to hear that, and they'll like the post because they're not actually going to do anything, but they just want to be like, oh, yeah, I can do it. I could do it. You know, and so they just want to hear empty phrases of you got this. But all the way up to the late majority, they need real facts. They need real proof. They need real help of saying, oh, I really can do this. I can get this done. I've seen social proof. I've seen them all do it. Last thing, great communicators know their job is to equip with tools. So it really is your job. Okay, this is what you're going through. So you define with them the problem. Here's how you need this, 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 and this. We've talked about it the last few on kind of different tips and tricks you can give people, tools. But what does that look like in your realm, your world? How are you helping people get further faster? And here's the last thing. So here's it's actually 7 parts to Donald Miller's story brand. So you have a character that has a problem, that meets a guide, which is you, and you give them a plan. You give them 3 steps to do this, or you give them encouragement or whatever, and calls them to action, which we've talked about this in the past few classes. It's not just, hey, here's what you can do, but you need to do it. You challenge them. You say, you will reach the journey, but here's what you have to do. Stop just listening. And that results in either success or failure. Every story, think about it, any successful movie has these 7 plots. That's how it all winds up, and as you're watching, you're so thankful they met the guide, and now you're worried, and you're hoping that the character finally follows the plan, and sometimes they mess up for a little bit, but they need to do it, and now we're waiting to see, did this work or did it not work? And when communities do all of this, and when your organization finally reaches success, then the laggards come. Right? So like there's no way to convince them except just being successful, and they finally are like, sure, I'll come. Sure, I'll be a part of it. My point of view is don't waste your time on laggards. A lot of people think, oh, I have to convince the unconvincible. Don't waste your time with them. They're lazy anyways. Spend your time on depending on where you're at, first on the early adopters, then the early majority. Make everything work. Start reaching the late, you'll naturally start reaching the late majority.